Hello and welcome back to another fun episode of the Great Ship the Space Show. If you're new here, welcome. We're at the end of season 2, but welcome. I
Is it? We're really ending season 2?
We're
Oh
ending
wow!
season 2 today. We are if you're new here, we're a space show. We talk about Star Trek the original series. I'm your host, Lieutenant Rebecca Frost, here with Admiral Kerry Jackson. And today we're going to talk about 6 episodes, but literally one of these episodes I'm going to skip right over because I hated every second of it.
Now, see, I looked at the list, and I honestly am not sure which one you're going to skip over because there are a few stinkers here.
There's a few stinkers here, you guys.
Yeah.
And they're all topical. I hate how they're all topical. 1968, and we are doomed to repeat history. Shall we not learn from it?
Good Star Trek and good sci-fi is always topical, no matter when it was made. You know, I heard somebody say, "You sit around watching old movies." I said, "Well, have you seen them?" He goes, "No." I said, "Well, then they're new to you, aren't they?"
And I am a bunch of these episodes, because typically what I do is I read about them a little bit before or while I'm watching. And with these, I just kind of let them wash over me. And I'm glad I did, because this first episode, Patterns of Force, looking for a missing Federation cultural observer, Kirk and Spock find themselves on a planet whose culture has been completely patterned after Nazi Germany. Absolutely insane.
Again, we have this backlot. We have all these Nazi uniforms. Could you guys write a story that uses all of this stuff so we don't have to build you another monster?
We've got all these Nazi costumes. Do you want to use them? So there seems to be an issue within Starfleet where Starfleet officers are contaminating other planets with their own agendas.
With their books, have you noticed?
With their book. I understand now why the conservatives want to ban all the books. Because we're just contaminating all these planets. And so this cultural observer has found his way to this planet with the Zans and the Yangs. Is that
Zions, which is short for Zions.
In case you just weren't slapped in the face hard enough with that. And the Yangs are a different episode that I'm getting confused with coming up.
That's coming up, yeah. Another book that was left behind.
But my God. And this guy's whole idea was, he was like, hey, listen, the Nazis had some good ideas.
So
tries to implement this political system, but just hopefully without the anti-Semitism. And it doesn't work out.
So he was the Tucker Carlson of Starfleet. He was, yeah.
Oh, God.
Come on. How many times have you looked on Twitter and seen that? Hitler had some good ideas. Yeah.
Will Smith himself, like, hey, Hitler thought he was doing a good, right? And my husband, he says this about every episode, but he was right on the nose about this when he's like, oh, is it another white guy hungry for power? And like, I don't know that he was hungry for power. I kind of hate to say it, saw where he was coming from. You know, he said, hey, under the right circumstances, this could have worked. And he tried that. But then somebody else came in and was like, hey, what if we killed all the Jews also?
Because that's what he said. That's what the book says. No, this is an age-old conservative argument. The Hitler had some good ideas except for this part thing. And I'm like, so you're telling me fascism is a good idea? Okay. Burning books, forcing your ideology, that whole thing, that's the good part. Oh, the trains ran on time? No, I think that you're just looking at the surface here. You need to look a little deeper.
Again, Carrie, I cannot wait for you to see the Barbie movie.
I'm hearkening back to one of my favorite album titles of all time from the punk rock band, the Vandals. The album title was Hitler Bad, Vandals Good. It's very basic, y'all. Captain America taught us this. Indiana Jones taught us this. There's nothing redeeming about the Nazis. Even Germany says it. Anyway.
Literally, even Germany is like, please, can we just not talk about this anymore?
Well, and this episode was not shown in Germany and still hasn't been seen in Germany.
Well, correction.
Oh.
Due to the post-war German ban on Nazi-related imagery and paraphernalia, this was the only Star Trek episode that was not shown on German TV until the mid-1990s, when these restrictions were gradually relaxed to allow for artistic expression.
All right, there we go then.
I also, I guess, okay, some things I did like about this episode. Spock still has his disguise from City on the Edge of Forever.
Mm-hmm.
He still's got his beanie and his sweater.
And again, just like in City on the Edge of Forever, doesn't work so well.
Does not work so well. I love shirtless Kirk and shirtless Spock, and I love that their lashes from getting whipped are just markers. They've just been covered in Crayola markers. Kirk is red, Spock's is green.
Yep.
These are the original science bros. Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo could never, because Kirk and Spock are in their jail cell MacGyvering their way out with a piece of metal and their little communicators from their arms.
Mm-hmm. They were smart. They did the chip technology so that they wouldn't be seen.
Yeah, and I wish I would. I mean, I get it's the late 60s, but I would love to have seen that extraction, right? Because we've seen it before in shows where they have like a subdermal transplant and people have to like take it out. Mm-hmm. Show me that. I like that. That's gross. I want more of that.
But we spent all our money on the marker for the whip marks.
Sorry. They literally spent all their money on Crayola markers. Have we ever, Carrie, I don't know if you've been paying attention, have we ever seen Spock shirtless before?
You know, that's nothing I kept track of. Let me think. I don't think you might be right. This might be the first time. Yes.
Well, he's a fuzzy bear. He's pretty fuzzy.
Oh, all right.
This I learned that not only is Leonard Nimoy Jewish, William Shatner's also Jewish. Mm-hmm. And Tony pointed out that Adam Sandler talked about this in the Hanukkah song. Listen to Adam Sandler.
Yeah. I will have to take his word for it as well.
Yeah, I'm like, cool. But yeah, and French Canadian as well, had no idea, which is why this episode for a lot of people was really difficult to film. Let's see. Leonard Nimoy.
Did Nimoy have a problem with this? I imagine he would.
Yes, he refused to have any publicity pictures taken of him in the Nazi uniform, as he was due to attend Hanukkah services later that month, as filming took place in December, and he did not want any controversies to arrive.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
I would just say anytime someone wants to take a picture of you while you're wearing a Nazi uniform, I don't care who you are. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, not ideal. I personally just wouldn't even do it.
Nope.
Yeah. And
sorry, Prince Harry.
Seriously. Kind of an insane choice. I didn't quite understand it. I liked it, didn't quite understand it too, because in order to infiltrate the building where our Führer is, they are working with the party secretary. Can't even remember her name, but she's a blonde lady Nazi. Mm-hmm. And you know how they are. But they're acting as a Nazi documentary crew and just following her with lights and a camera. And that's how they're able to infiltrate the building. That's a bizarre... Who thought of that? I think it's fantastic, but how unusual.
I think it might be because the Nazi Party documented an awful lot of stuff behind the scenes. They were constantly rolling cameras, so maybe that's where they got the idea.
Interesting. They beam McCoy down to the planet as a Gestapo doctor, and he struggles with Das Boot because he cannot get his boot to fit.
I love that we have McCoy as the head of the SS, and they go, "Oh, well, he's clearly drunk," and he just falls right into it. Oh, yes, I can be drunk. I know that sensation.
That's what I love about McCoy. McCoy, one, ready for death at any time. Two, he leans into stuff so fast.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh,
and there's a line where Spock says, I understand why you Earthmen enjoy gambling. And Kirk says, why, Spock, we may make a human of you yet. And he says, I hope not. Like,
like, hey,
good. Good.
That's an insult. I'd rather not. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I just can't believe we never learned from history. Like, how are we still here? This is insane. It is 2023. And we are watching this episode and it is still so topical.
Star Trek is always trying to teach you stuff and nobody pays attention. And all of you conservatives who say you're Star Trek fans, are you? I don't think you're paying attention.
Yeah, you're not getting it. Also, Spock at the end of this episode is listing off just a whole host of people, like evil people in the world. Hitler, I can't remember who else is on the list. Mussolini, literally no mention of Khan Noonien Singh.
Should have been.
Should have been.
Well, again, the original series didn't worry too much about canon and all of that stuff. They were putting yeah. They had 5 days to put together a show, you know.
Literally. So when you people come at me online when I say that the chain of command is Spock, Kirk, Sulu, and Uhura,
yeah, they weren't
find me where it says that, because I definitely couldn't find it.
It wasn't until later that stuff was decided it was canon, you know.
Wow, it is suddenly so bright in here. But it has to be because my cats are in here now, and so they deserve the sun. Yes. But the next episode I don't want to talk about. This is actually the episode I want to skip. It's By Any Other Name. Galactic alien scouts capture the Enterprise for a return voyage and a prelude to an invasion. Kirk's one advantage, they're not used to their adopted human form. This episode was the dumbest fucking episode I've ever seen.
This is the one you want to skip? And not the Omega Glory coming up?
No, because the Omega Glory is too topical that we have to talk about it.
Okay. This one, By Any Other Name. Back when I was a kid and they had the Star Trek in reruns, you know, you'd come home at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon and they were on, thank goodness. Right after school, you'd watch 2 episodes of Batman and a Star Trek, and that's little Carrie having fun. They would make, the local stations would have to make their own promos for the show. And so what they would usually do is just take 25 seconds of footage and then at the end have the announcer and a slide come up with the Star Trek logos. Star Trek Monday through Friday at 4 on Fox 13 or whatever the channel was, you know. And so it was for a good 6 months, I want to say this. It was the same promo every day, and it was 30 seconds of this episode.
Ugh, and it's the worst one. You got this Elon Musk looking guy trying to, again, kidnap the people of the Enterprise, take over the Enterprise, do whatever. And their only advantage is that, like, they're not human. So in order to, like, advance, they have surpassed their human form, whoosy whatsy. But in order to beam onto the ship, they have to be in human form or something. And so, again, this is one of those instances where, hey, remember how being a human maybe isn't that great because you are easily foibled by feelings and human anatomy and biology.
Your big question, why do aliens want to be human so bad? Clearly, it's a bad idea. I mean, other than our food and our art, you know, why would you want...
Yeah. Like, the human imagination is such a wonderful thing. That's it.
That's it.
If it wasn't for the human imagination, we wouldn't have gotten a Star Trek.
But you got to give it up to these aliens for their belts that they have. Apparently, they have one function because they have one button on them. Again, the prop department couldn't afford more than one button per belt. But you press the button, and what it does is it dehydrates humans. It removes the moisture from them and takes their base essence and breaks it down into a little, not a cube, but
a weird cube-like shape.
It looks like the Epcot Center at Disney World. It's a little Epcot Center. And so that I thought was interesting. But now what I need to do, now that we're talking about this, I realize this is the plot of the Batman 1966 movie, where the villains took the entire world guild of all the countries, you know, and dehydrated them all and took the fluid out, but they saved the fluid. Unlike in this one, the fluid, we don't know what happened to it, but the fluid was sucked into these test tubes. So you have the French ambassador, and you go, beep, and the water fills up. And there's the Indian ambassador, beep, and the water fills up. German ambassador, beep, and the water fills up. Batman at the end has to rehydrate all of the world leaders, and he's the only one who can do it. Forget that we have scientists in all these countries and NASA. Clearly, the guy dressed as a bat is the guy who's qualified to do it. Anyway.
Well, they're not the world's greatest detective.
So okay. So he hooks up all the powder, and because that's what's left of the powder. It's not a cubicle like this, and the fluid, and he runs the fluid into the powder. But somehow, some of the water got mixed up. And so the German guy is speaking French. The Indian guy is speaking Swedish.
Oh, no.
Anyway, so I wonder which one came first. Who had the idea of dehydrating people? Anyway, long ways to go for it.
But also, the idea of dehydrating people shows up in literally another episode in this group of episodes. I wish I could remember... is it Bread and I can't remember if it's Bread and Circuses or the Omega Glory. Or is it the Ultimate Computer? No, it can't be that one.
Any of those.
But literally, and there's another episode in this string of episodes, because I watched them all yesterday, where a body gets fully dehydrated, but instead of being a compacted little cube, it's just like a bunch of little meth rocks on the ground in a Starfleet uniform.
That's the Ultimate Computer, I think.
Okay, that's. Okay.
Anyway, so you want to skip this episode then?
I mean, I have literally four things to say about it.
Say it, and then I've got our transition. Go ahead.
Scotty, love this for Scotty. His solution is, don't worry, I'll get them drunk. McCoy, don't worry, I will use medicine. And Kirk, don't worry, I will seduce them.
Scotty, and they're all using their powers. All three of them.
They're using their powers for good.
But the best part about Scotty getting this guy drunk is that Scotty is, you don't drink him under the table. It just doesn't happen. Mm-mm. But this guy, because he's alien,
and brand new to being human,
he's hanging in there pretty damn good. And it gets to the point where even Scotty doesn't realize what he's serving the guy. He goes, now, what is this? He goes, it's green. Here, enjoy.
Perfect.
That line comes back where Scotty goes, it's green. That line comes back in Next Generation.
Oh.
At 10 Forward, and Data is trying beverages. And they said, well, what is this? And he has the same bottle. It's a Sarian brandy bottle, same prop bottle. And he pours it and he goes, it is green. And only us old Trekkies, we went, yeah.
The only piece of trivia I have for this episode, the Kelvin word for flower is shashir, and actress Shashir Zameda of Saturday Night Live fame was named after it by her Trek-loving parents.
That's right. Oh, and she's so good. I like her so much.
I saw her there when I was living in New York, my birthday weekend, best weekend of my life, because I got to go see Mike Birbiglia in my neighborhood. There was a place called the Bell House, and Mike Birbiglia was doing a show there.
Oh.
And it was a surprise as to who else he was going to have, because he was also like workshopping stuff for his upcoming tour. So it was Mike Birbiglia, John Mulaney, Michael Che, and Shashir Zameda. And it was like one of the best stand-up evenings I have ever experienced on my birthday weekend in New York. Fantastic.
That sounds great. Real quick before we leave, and I'm not getting paid to do this, but if you go to the Star Trek website, startrek.com, and they have a gift guide there, and you can buy stuff. They have a series of classic Star Trek characters as cats.
Okay, quickly.
Write this down. And there's one that I want. I hope they still have it in poster form, but it's Scotty from this episode, drunk. But it's a Scotty cat, and he's holding a bottle and he's licking the bottle. And it says milk on it instead of scotch. But he's a clearly drunk kitty going,
it's green. My God. What a specific dissection of my interests. Right. Literally, that's it I want to talk about for that episode.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Mr. Scott, I'll need all the speed you can deliver. Keep at it until we begin to shake apart. Kirk out.
All right, there we go. Let's move on.
The Omega Glory! Responding to a distress signal, Kirk finds Captain Tracy of the USS Exeter violating the Prime Directive and interfering with the war between the Yangs and the Comms to find the secret of their longevity.
This is not a good episode. This is not good.
I absolutely agree. It's a bad episode, but we have to talk about it just because of the contents. Because I was so bored during this episode up until the end where they start piecing things together and you're like, are you serious with this?
This one's definitely a by the premise, by the bed. It asks an awful lot of you.
So like you've got this one guy again contaminating this planet, trying to interfere with these people because they have unlocked the secret to longevity and immortality. So like point one, I get it, man. I also, if I found the secret to immortality, absolutely count me in. But that said, definitely forgot where I was going with that. The thing about these people is it's not that they have unlocked like the secret to immortality. It is they have just evolved in such a way that they are designed to live long. But the reason they are designed to live this long is because of similar chemical weaponry that okay. You know our Cold War? The Cold War on Earth?
Mm-hmm.
If the communists had won, we would be able to live for a long time. Is what I took away from this episode. Apparently this planet's history had a Cold War similar to the one we had on Earth. And
you had the Yangs, who were
the Yankees.
Clearly the Yankees, clearly the white folks.
Ay, Dios mío.
And the comms,
the communists.
Communist Chinese. Now, this episode is banned in my home.
Is it really?
Because I'm married to a very proud Asian woman.
Yep.
And this is definitely an example of what was referred to as the yellow scare. Look it up, kids. It's on Google. And it's as progressive as this show was for the time. It still made mistakes. And it definitely made mistakes with the way that it portrayed the comms. Because they could speak English, they knew the words, but they still spoke in stilted Asian-y stereotypes. It's nothing to be proud of, Star Trek people.
It's an unusual episode, considering, too, because my husband was watching this with me, and he was like, wow, because I guess this was the era when they're like, America, F yeah. And I'm like, but also, Star Trek was doing a lot of episodes in response to how bad the Vietnam War was. And so this gung-ho America, fuck yeah, seems so out of place. And like, did the government pay for an episode?
Now this script was from, I want to say season 1. It was a very early script.
It was one of the front runners to be the pilot.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. It's a terrible choice. So that might have had something to do with it, because once the show started, then politically we started to turn more progressive. I don't know if this was so America F yeah. It was more freedoms, less restrictions is better. And
but
maybe
also,
this is an example to feed you that, I don't know.
But also, like, watch it today, conservatives, because the entire thing hinges on the Constitution has been misinterpreted, and you're doing it wrong. So stop trying to use this document to justify your outrageous behaviors.
Well, and as Kirk says, these words have to mean something to everyone, not just the comms, not just the Yangs. If it doesn't mean something to everybody, then the words are useless. And the words that they're talking about are personal freedoms, the pursuit of happiness, the ability to be who you want to be. And again, if you're conservative and you think you're a Star Trek fan, I don't think you're watching the same
Don't
show.
think you're getting it. Kirk,
not
he does say, he says something along the lines of like, you're saying the words, but you're saying them without meaning. And you know, there was a period of time, it was 2008, where I was very much like, yeah, government, the government can't wrong me. We're doing great, America. But like watching it, like, and if I had watched this episode back then, I'd be like, like fist pumping, like, F yeah, we did, like, America. But now I'm watching it, and it's just such an unfortunate parallel to how we're tackling everything today. Like Mike Lee's stupid response to an InfoWars tweet about how COVID precautions are coming back in September, and he says it's unconstitutional. I'm like, you don't know the meaning of the word, because there's not every, and it's a living document too. Like they have designed it to be a living document, and maybe, just maybe, we should update it.
And well, yes, absolutely. And we're not always right is the other thing. And I would point you geeks to your Captain America comics. There were several times in the early days of Captain America where he quit being Captain America because he wasn't proud of what America was doing. All right. Look no further than your Star Spangled, Boy Scout. We're not always right, but for the most part, we got a pretty good document there. It does need to be updated.
Yeah.
But you're misinterpreting it. You're using it in a wrong way. You're using good for your powers of good for evil is the thrust of this story. Oh, anyway. There's a I love ska music, and there's a band, I believe it's the Scofflaws. This is a very old song called William Shatner. and they sing about William Shatner, and one of the lines in the song is, I really like the one where he reads the Constitution after ending all the fighting in the future revolution. William Shatner.
Oh my God. It's so
I
funny.
thought this was the one that you'd want to skip.
No,
that's
absolutely not. The person who loves talking about politics in me,
Okay.
I'm like, absolutely not. We are discussing it.
Welcome to church. All right.
This was one of 3 scripts submitted to NBC, along with Where No Man Has Gone Before and Mud's Women, when they were seeking to do a second pilot for the series. Can you imagine opening Star Trek with Mud's Women?
No. Oh, that's terrible.
And also, NBC announced that Star Trek would be renewed for a 3rd season during the closing credits of the Omega Glory, broadcast on March 1st, 1968. In the announcement, they also wrote, "Please do not send any more letters," responding to the vast amount of mail received during the protests organized by Gene Roddenberry and B. Joe Trimble.
Yes.
Incredible
Happy
stuff.
birthday, BJ.
America F, yeah.
Yes.
And then, again, another topical episode, The Ultimate Computer. Kirk and a subskeleton crew are ordered to test out an advanced artificially intelligent control system, the M5 Multitronic system, which could potentially render them all redundant. I loved this episode.
Now, this is an episode that we've seen before, in that, an artificial intelligence thinks it's better, and Kirk has to outsmart it using, emotions or logic. I mean, it's a familiar classic series trope. But what sets this one apart is we get, the entire ship it's sanctioned by the Federation. This is not an enemy, that's taken over. This isn't Nomad,
This is new tech within Starfleet, they're testing it out to determine whether or not it's feasible to use everywhere.
And it would, as it would today, AI would replace people. So this one, now more than ever, this one.
Something I really liked about this episode in particular is the character stuff. Spock gets to fangirl about computer stuff because he has he has not degrees or whatever, but he has expertise in computer sciences, and he is so jazzed about having this scientist come on board and asks him questions about the computers and stuff, and you get to see Spock be excited about something.
Oh, yeah,
it was cute.
You could tell he's got a Daystrom rookie card,
He's got a Daystrom computer. What? Do you have Discord on?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's
I'll
okay.
turn it off.
That's okay. But yeah, and not only does Spock get to be super excited about something, but we get to see Kirk get his feelings hurt because the AI is determining that he is not what is the word? They used it during COVID, non-essential. He's a non-essential employee.
Yeah.
And Kirk is like, "Oh,
non-essential
okay."
Personnel. Yeah. And then he's also insulted by his fellow captains, that he hangs out in the locker room with, referring to him as Captain Dunsel. He said, and he just shuts down emotionally, pouts, and walks off the bridge. And McCoy's like, what do they mean? What are they talking about? And Spock explains to him that Dunsel is a term that midshipmen in the academy use, referring to a part that has no purpose.
Like, honestly, that hurt. It did break my heart a little bit. But also when the computer is listing up, because they're doing like a mock planet investigation or whatever, and Kirk says, "Okay, I want me, McCoy, Spock, and a couple of engineers to go on a landing crew," but the computer says, Spock and a couple of like Spock, Scotty, or some other people, but does not include McCoy or Kirk. And when asked why, they're like, "Oh, well, they're not essential." And I'm like, listen, it's not wrong. Kirk and McCoy don't really need to be there on a fact-finding mission to a place that they've just discovered. Like, I can get why you'd want to go, but I agree with the computer. You're not really needed down there. It makes sense for Spock to go. It makes sense for an environmental biologist or whoever to go. But yeah, I also really like stories that are metaphors for the advancement of technology and not really being able to keep up with that, and how that affects, people of all generations. I think this is a really interesting glimpse into Kirk. Technology is going to surpass you at some point. How are you going to handle that? And this was opening the door to that. And I don't know. I like stories like that.
And it's something that will be addressed in the movies as you watch them with Kirk and him getting older, and are we replaceable, and that sort of thing. That'll be coming up themes in the upcoming movies. Another cool thing about this episode is it introduces a name that will echo throughout Star Trek, and that is Dr. Richard Daystrom of the Daystrom Institute.
Mentioned prominently.
Yeah, that name will show up. The Daystrom Institute will show up all over the place, including your season 3 of Picard. That's also there too. So look for that. But the actor who played Richard Daystrom, I'm blanking on his name. Very good actor.
William Marshall.
William Marshall, who is also a geek favorite from the Blackula movies. He was Blackula.
Oh, a piece of trivia I have about him in particular. There's a 1999 essay called "Welcome Aboard the Enterprise" by science fiction author Robert J. Sawyer, and he wrote, "The ship's computers, as seen in The Ultimate Computer, were designed by a Nobel Prize-winning black cyberneticist played with equal dignity by William Marshall. During the era of Martin Luther King Jr. and the Watts riots, it was a powerful, important statement to have the white captain of the Enterprise referring to black people. As Marshall observed 30 years later, the single most significant thing about his guest starring role was that he, an African American, was referred to as Sir throughout the episode." And it warms my heart. Like, just instances like that. I really love reading about stuff like that. And I loved his character. I mean, he was kind of a crazy guy, sure. But I thought he played it so authentically and
well, and
intelligently.
It was a little bit of a Frankenstein story too, because he put his human engrams in the workings of the M5 computer, which made the M5 computer irrational, faster but irrational.
Why are we so pro-human? They did this in Jurassic Park. You give the dinosaurs human DNA and they take over. This McCoy in this episode had some banger lines. Don't think I want to be here, Spock, because Spock is they're bringing McCoy along for this artificial intelligence test, and Spock is like, I'm excited, and McCoy is like, I am not. Do not lump me in with the group of you. Let's see, what else does he say? The right computer finally came along when talking about how excited Spock is. And then later when because the episode actually takes kind of a scary turn because it starts, the Enterprise starts attacking other ships and they can't stop it. And 53 people died. It actually has consequences and is actually quite scary. And McCoy says something like, fantastic machine, no off switch. And I just love, in the height of danger, McCoy coming in with the quips. And also right before this, because Kirk is like, well, I guess I'm not needed. I'm going to go back to my quarters and F you guys. And so McCoy brings him a green drink and Kirk drinks his, but McCoy doesn't. And so Kirk returns to the bridge to do his job drunk, is my understanding of what happened.
Well, did Kirk drink McCoy's as well? So that was two
shots? Because McCoy puts his down as they leave. And I remember so specifically because there's a shot of the full drink on the counter.
Well, he returns buzzed, not drunk. But buzzed starship captaining is just the same and dangerous, folks.
I was like, honestly, I'm sure this makes him do his job even better,
Yes.
But yeah, Ultimate Computer, that was an episode I really liked. Moving on to Bread and Circuses. The Enterprise crew investigates the disappearance of a ship's crew on a planet that is the modern version of the Roman Empire. I have zero trivia for this episode because I couldn't find anything.
Because it's not really that great. I mean, it's okay. I mean,
it's a Hunger Games. It's a Hunger Games episode. Yeah. It's really all it is.
Now, again, somebody leaves a book behind, and this is what happens.
It's not that a book gets left behind. It's
what
that
was it?
So something goes wrong with the ship, and the crew of the ship beams onto the planet, and the ship has been drifting in space for they determine 6 years. So they determine the path of where its last known spot, and then these people have been on this planet for 6 years.
Oh, the people from the abandoned starship, yeah.
Yes. Well, one guy, a bunch of them have survived, but a lot of them have not, because they have this Hunger Games-esque ritual where they gotta fight to the death on TV, and it's extremely on the nose,
Yeah. I love the really corrupt guy. He was a little heavy set, and he just had that look about him, and he even said his lines like this: "Well, Captain, perhaps you'd like to stay."
And just another Starfleet officer gone rogue. Starfleet, what is happening here? I say it all the time. If Starfleet ever betrays me, I will be devastated. And I'm seeing a lot of loose cannons slip through the cracks, and I don't know how we're letting them get through.
Well, we're humans.
Oh,
it's a great idea that we keep screwing up because we're humans.
I have a note of, this is why you always have a Vulcan with you, because you gotta have a Vulcan I understand now why the Federation was formed by humans and Vulcans, because it just makes sense. You gotta have Vulcans in there to be like, stop it, you're being irrational, you're being human, and I don't like it.
Star Trek the motion picture, Kirk says when he's heading back onto the ship and taking command, I'd still like a Vulcan in that seat, because Mr. Spock was not available.
Yeah, yes, even absolutely. The man gets it. Yeah, literally, what is there to say about Bread and Circuses? Literally nothing, because and again, Andrew was watching this with me, and he was like, let me guess, they have to fight to the death. And you also, this is another heavy-handed one, because it draws parallels to Jesus Christ, right? Because of Caesar, and there were parallels to Jesus. I cannot be bothered, truthfully.
Okay. I don't recall any Jesus parallels in here.
Oh, I read something about how there's like Jesus parallels. It truly doesn't matter. McCoy's really mean to Spock in this one. He, there's one instance where McCoy's like, "Hey, you saved my life. Thanks." And Spock is like, "I believe the term I should say is you're welcome," or something like that. And McCoy acts so irrationally because he's trying to have, I don't think McCoy's ever had a sincere thank you in his life. And so, he's sitting there trying to tell Spock like, thank you. And Spock, because of who Spock is like, okay, whatever. And McCoy's like, "I'm trying to tell you thank you. Why can't you just accept my thank you?" And then he even says to Spock, "You've never known pain," or something along those lines. And me, someone watching Strange New Worlds, is like, "How dare you? Spock has known pain. This man has known pain. How dare you insinuate anything otherwise?" And then, of course,
first words his father said to him after he was born, after looking at Spock, said, "So human."
Oh,
Right away.
brutal.
Day one.
And then, of course, Kirk is given a woman to bang.
Well, again, we all have our strengths, and we all have our superpowers. McCoy drugging people, Kirk does this,
Yeah, and like when I say it's Hunger Games-esque, it's like Suzanne Collins must have literally ripped the Hunger Games from this episode because they are fighting to the death on camera, and like the whole thing is such an allegory for like actual TV, right? Like everyone's dressed in suits, and if you don't do it well, the ratings are gonna dip, and then we'll have to punish you further.
It's almost like a political party we know. Oh, the ratings will dip. We've got to do something outrageous.
We got to kill people on TV.
Yep. They're losing interest. We got to do something outrageous.
God damn it. Well, okay. The last episode of season 2. We're just going to move right on to it. Assignment Earth. While back in time observing Earth in 1968, the Enterprise crew encounters the mysterious Gary 7, who has his own agenda on the planet. And the entire time I watched this episode, I kept saying out loud, "What am I looking at here? What am I watching here?" Because this is insane.
I see your response to this episode is exactly what America's response to this episode. Because there was a plan behind this episode that didn't work because of this episode.
Yeah. Kirk says at some point in the movie, I'm sure, or in the episode, "I'm sure they'll have many interesting adventures together," refers to the upcoming series that was planned for this show. Gary 7 and Roberta Lincoln would have been up against aliens called the Omegans, who had mastered time travel, and they would work to make sure mankind achieved the glorious destiny that Gary 7's alien masters intended it should. To this end, Gary 7's office computer would have had the ability to turn back time and cancel out any damage that had been done by the Omegans in their attempt to alter Earth's history. So this episode served as a backdoor pilot.
Yes.
And this is just American Doctor Who. That's all it is.
Sure, absolutely. That's what
the
it
doctor
is.
and his lady friend. That's all this was.
Right down to his tool that he used to do things. It was the
His
sonic
pen.
screwdriver. His
His
pen.
sonic pen. What's crazy is he had like psychic paper, but I had to look it up because I was like, psychic paper is definitely a Doctor Who thing, but not introduced until David Tennant's run, which is decades later.
So Doctor Who ripped off Doctor Who.
Insane. But yeah, I barely paid attention to this episode because it wasn't Star Trek. Like my Star Trek friends showed up for 5 minutes, but other than that, I'm on my phone. I'm doing other stuff. I like that there was a cat.
Yeah, I enjoyed it because there was a cat. It was Star Trek adjacent, which is good enough for me. And and Terry Gar. Ah, yes, Terry Gar. Young Terry Gar is there. And she's
Who's Terry Gar? Oh, is that the lady?
Roll in the hay, young Frankenstein.
Oh, okay.
Terry Gar, hilarious and beautiful. She's in, watch Tootsie. She's terrific in the movie Tootsie. So that we had all that going. Now, I kind of liked the idea of this TV series. I wanted more. We didn't get it on a TV show. We've gotten it in several comic books and a couple of novels. Gary Seven Adventures. More recently, he reappeared in IDW's Star Trek season. It was called Year 5 was the name of the series, and it was basically, the 5th year of the 5-year mission that they put out there, and it was the Enterprise coming back to Earth, and there was a whole 3 or 4 issues that were Gary Seven centric, and he's much more powerful than we have been led to believe. I'll leave it at that. I'll just let you. But
investigate
Isis was still there.
further on my own.
Isis was still there. Roberta not there in the comics, so that was interesting too.
Yeah, it just straight up American Doctor Who, and I love Doctor Who. Don't get me wrong, but I am here to watch Star Trek. Where are my Star Trek friends?
This one it kind of failed because it was trying to do the spin-off thing, and people were already iffy on this show anyway. You're asking an awful lot.
We had to beg to have them renew it.
Yeah, you're asking an awful lot of the viewers of this show at the time, and this just kind of was a bit much. I think it did not help the Star Trek cause as much as I enjoyed it. It didn't help.
Yeah, I liked Robert Lansing. I thought he was a cool character.
Oh, that suit he wore, man. I love that suit.
Yeah, he looked great. Loved it that there was a cat. Also really liked because this is kind of one of the first times they actually go back to Earth 1968, when the show is being filmed. So a nice glimpse into I actually do forget, what did 1968 look like? And the outfit's phenomenal. This furniture, incredible. Terrible time to be alive during the Cold War, just constantly on the edge of your seat there. But I literally have no idea how I would rate this episode, if I would ever recommend it to anybody. It's just a weird one-shot issue of my Star Trek show, and cool.
It's not one that I recommend to people. It's one of those that if you're interested in Star Trek and would like to know more, I would bring this one to the table after a while.
I'm like, if you're interested in something that is Star Trek adjacent, watch this, or just watch Doctor Who. Just watch Doctor Who.
Well, like I said, with these other Gary Seven adventures, he becomes more Star Trek centric. He becomes more part of the whole storytelling thing, and it turns out he's always been there.
Oh my God, of course.
So.
He's
a time traveler,
Yeah. Well, that's season 2, though. We watched all of season 2. And
what this means?
That means we're going to start the journey into season 3 with Spock's brain, I think is the episode.
That's the first one, season 3.
And people say it's the worst.
The one that everyone says is the worst. I went back and looked at it again.
And
I'll let you know on the next episode.
Well,
I'm not saying anything. I do have something for you. Since I didn't have any specific toys for these episodes.
You mean you didn't have a copy of the U.S. Constitution?
Exactly, that whole thing. I used to have that recording. I should have played it for you. I brought you these. These are Star Trek Ninja Turtles.
Oh my! I love crossovers for everything.
Yeah. So
which one's that one? The blue one.
This is Leonardo as Captain Kirk because he's the leader of the Turtles.
Is Leonardo? Oh, I guess Leonardo is the leader, huh?
He is. This is Michelangelo as Scotty.
Oh yeah, my man.
Yeah. So there's Michelangelo as Scotty, and then there is. This was an interesting choice because, as we all know. Oh, no, this works out. I thought it was Spock. Raphael as Bones McCoy. He's the medical officer. Of course, they both have tempers. So
yeah, okay.
So that works out. And then, of course, Donatello would be Spock.
Donatello would be Spock, obviously, yeah.
He's the science one. You can see even his hand is in the Live Long and Prosper.
That's so cute.
That one right there. There we go. So I just wanted to show you my Star Trek Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I can't. Again, what don't you have? That's insane to me.
All right.
Well,
season 3. Oh boy.
Season 3 coming up. Thank you guys so much for joining us for season 2 of Star Trek: The Original Series. And next week we're going to keep going where no man's gone before, but a lot of people have gone before. Thanks, everyone.